All right, everybody. If videos with loud noises aren't for you, this one's probably a pass for you. But we're out testing the launch control today because I figured out why it wasn't working. All right, so we got the laptop out here, ready to do a little bit of tuning. So what was the deal? Why wasn't it working? Well, I actually went in and rebuilt the entire circuit on the ECU one more time, and I actually did it really nice. This time I ran all the wiring on the back side of the board, kept the front side looking real nice and clean. Looks beautiful. Looks like a professional was in there now. That had nothing to do with it. Everything about the circuitry, totally fine. The issue was the wire that ran from the ECU over to the switch and the switch to a ground was too large of a gauge. This circuit, hey, wake up you. This circuit was such a low voltage, low amperage circuit. It was reading for a very, very small change in voltage to ground that there was so much resistance. Let me turn the fan off. So much resistance in that wire, it wasn't getting a strong enough signal of on or off. So I reran that circuit with the factory switch and with a thinner gauge wire to the switch and from the switch to the ground. Now it works flawlessly. That, I don't know why that took me so long to really come to the conclusion of, but it did. But I did figure it out, and I'm glad that I did. So now it's a matter of tuning. So as of right now, the system is arming, and it is working. It is obviously on fuel cut. It is not on spark cut because we still have the EIS. That didn't seem like enough letters. We're on the Ford style ignition system that doesn't allow spark cut. So I actually got a message from Grant on the last episode who built this ECU about some stuff. And he said that he never did this because he was always worried about the fuel cut being an issue and he didn't feel like it was necessary since he was doing, it doesn't need to build boost. It's a supercharged car, which I agree with, totally. The only reason I want it is because I drove a car at Autocross that had a launch setting, a two-step basically, and it was just a stock Miata. This was a non-boosted car, and I loved it because it was so consistent leaving the line. It was one less thing to be preoccupied with. I thought it was really cool, so that's why I wanted to go this route. Now, he was always worried about doing the fuel cut because when you fuel cut, you can run into a lean situation. If everything is working right, if I don't have leaking injectors, which it's KA, it probably has leaking injectors at some points, then whenever it reaches an RPM, it's supposed to cut 100% of fuel until RPM drops below target. So yes, the spark is still sparking, but there should be no fuel in the combustion chamber. I've also pulled timing during the launch events enough so that even if there is a lean burn in a cylinder, that lean burn is going to happen piston already, traveling down in velocity. It's not going to happen at top dead center, hopefully. I'm not super worried about that, but I don't like it. I don't like doing fuel cut. I would much rather do fuel and spark or just spark because it's safer. It's totally safer to do that. But that's going to have to wait until a future modification, either to move to single or individual coils or to change this system over to a regular wasted spark instead of the EDIS. I think that's the right amount of letters. System, which is apparently possible with another board modification. Not too worried about that right now. Again, this whole project was just to get some experience with modifying the ECU, doing circuit building, that kind of stuff. Kind of gain some confidence. Took a little while to gain that confidence considering, we had that kind of stupid issue, but I'm feeling pretty darn good about it now, and now it's time for a little tuning. So initially the problem I'm having with it is that it's on too much. So the first thing I need to do is to go in here and change the TPS setting. Let's change that to 10. So it would need at least 10% throttle in order to engage. I have it 2700 and 2800 right now, which does tell me that my TAC reading is a little bit wrong, which I've always suspected it was. I'm going to pull a little bit more timing out of it. All right, I'm going to burn this one. And I just want to test some back and forth driving now, because the problem I was having is because it's an always armed system. I was having some problems when shifting and, you know, just general driving around. It was hitting launch control when I didn't want it to be hitting it. So hopefully with it being above 10, that won't be as much of an issue. I'm also going to go in here and I'm going to adjust my actual switch, because the switch was sometimes not engaged when I need it to be, because there's a little bit of play in the clutch pedal. You can kind of hear it. So let me do that right now. Okay, that's better. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just like a few drives up and down the street and see if it's behaving a little better. Boy, that still seems... interesting. It says it's enabled right now, but it shouldn't be, because I don't have 10% throttle, unless that just means that it's armed, not going. No, it still says launch. That's not right. Here, let me drive it for a second here. Okay, no, it's not. I feel like it's not listening to the throttle position sensor, or unless that's just 10% wasn't enough. It kicked in while I was shifting. Now that is kind of flat shifting, but we don't want that behavior. We want only launch control. Interesting. Okay, so might have to go up to like 25-30% then. Let's go all the way to 35%. So now it should be 35% is when it launch would come on. 35% is quite a bit for normal driving. Actually, I can look and kind of get a feel for it because I have TPS on here. There it is there. So how much is 35? We rolling. You know what? We're still rolling. I think I'm gonna go 50. I think 50 is a good place for it to be coming on. Like, why would I ever need it below 50? So let's do that. The problem with doing 50, and why I kind of didn't want to do that to begin with, is that's a lot of throttle for the launch. But the whole idea of launch control is to be able to just mat it and go. So that should be all right. I'm not going to sit on there for very long today. I'm going to do a couple launches, assuming we get it working right. But I'm not going to sit on there just because I don't 100% know how it's going to behave yet, and I don't want to end up with a cylinder lean out or anything too treacherous or anything like that. I'm going to, check plugs and everything after this to see how it's doing. But let's see if 50 at least gets us to be not hitting it while shifting. Okay, it's not coming on nearly as much now. If it were spark cut, I wouldn't worry about it at all. I'd let it hit it on the shifts a little bit. But because it's not, I don't want there to be any load on this engine while there's a rev limiter. That's my goal. And I also try to not hit limiter in this car ever. I try to not hit limiter ever in this car while it's running during competition. Ooh, that was dirty. Didn't like that. I think it kicked in because I didn't have the pedal up far enough. It's almost making me want a momentary switch. That's another thing we can do, is momentary switch it so that I can hold the button for launch and then get off of it, and then it's never enabled during the run. I think that's the direction I want to go with it. That's the safest route, and it just seems like the most sensible to me. I have a lot of mechanical sympathy, so I know when it's not right. I can hear when it's not right, and I was able to get out of it before we did anything to it. But yeah, I certainly don't like the fact that it can come on when I don't want it to. So I think momentary switch is probably the way to go. I wish I had where's the GoPro at? I wish I had a cruise wheel. I don't have a cruise wheel, so it doesn't have extra buttons here. If it had the cruise buttons, I would make use of those for this. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that part of it. That's good enough for now. I'll just have to be very careful with it until I get the switch installed. Let's try some launch and see if we can see how that's behaving. I'm gonna risk our crappy, already broken GoPro. Boy, I don't like how high it got before it engaged there. That's too far. Having it at 55 means it's gonna rev way out before it hits, and I don't want that. So we're gonna have to try a change there. Might be better off launching over here, huh? If I can see. I wanted to go down there, but they blocked off my skid pad. Jerks. Yeah, this thing's so rev heavy that that's going to be a problem. I'm going to have it way down at like 10% to have it engage. So a momentary switch is the only way to go here. That's correct. Okay. Hit my head on the roof. It's not going to be great launching conditions because, again, we're uphill. But I just want to see how it reacts, if it comes off of it in time. It's going to be pretty easy on it first hit here. These conditions aren't great, and these tires are certainly not great. It laid on it though. It did work. But you can see it left marks. We would have to hit from real low RPM, I think, on these tires in these conditions. We would have to hit from real low. Hey, who put these marks in the road? Oh, I knocked the camera over. I wonder if the exhaust did it or if I did it. I wonder how much of that we got. I gotta get into it harder. So because we don't have the momentary switch, I'm not gonna let it go to second gear. I'm gonna just drop it after it runs through first, just to get an idea on how that's working. That wasn't bad. 2,000 RPM is not a lot of RPM. I would like that to be much higher than that. But that's how it's supposed to work. Happy with that. And hopefully we got some footage of it there. Now I need to get on a roll here. I'm going to turn the system off. I'm going to disarm it so that it doesn't interrupt me on the street, because that really sucks. Still seems happy. And all that sitting around, it didn't overheat. That's nice. I was going to record a nice outro of everything that happened there, but a skink decided that it wanted to live in my light socket and shorted out the lights in the garage. So it's a little dark in here. But in summary, it was a success. It's not exactly a done project, but is any project really a done project? No. But it was a success in that I managed to modify the circuit, and I did it. I figured it out, and I figured out all the problems with it along the way. And that's kind of how I take projects. Even if you have a problem, even if you have a failure, that's, it's just a little bit of knowledge that you have for the next time, because I hope there is more times. I do want to do my own computer setup someday for a different car, and there's certainly some things I'd still like to change with this one. So the setup needs still to have a switch that works on the steering wheel. I don't like the fact that it's just on by the clutch. I would like to be able to hit the switch and go. Gonna look at my options though, try to find a good momentary switch for that. It's not a pressing concern. This was, like I said, just a project kind of for fun and for learning. So we're gonna move on to some other things now. So the wheels and tire situation is very high up on the list for this car. I wanna desperately keep this set of wheels and keep that look with the car. I think we've found something that's going to keep the look, but we are likely going to finally go 5-lug. Goodbye 4 lugs. You've served us well over the years. That does mean changing the brakes up a little bit, but is a project for another day. Hopefully you enjoyed this little project and are looking forward to more stuff with the 240, but also the ramp truck. We're about to move over to that project next.